I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to the latest broadcast. Another close call for me. I woke up 15 minutes ago. One day it'll be at exactly 9 o'clock my time, 9 o'clock your time. If you're on East Coast, United States Eastern Standard Time. So, the month is clicking by here, April 16th. Well, I posted a video last night. It was the last thing I did and fell asleep right after I basically pushed publish. And I don't know how long it took for it to send up to YouTube, but it was just the segment from yesterday's show where Tank outlined what would happen in the plan for the GCR to happen. So it's a 13-minute segment. I thought it was important to put that out as a piece because it is really something that you could send other people that if they want to know what's going to happen when the GCR happens as they intended, but it's not going to happen. But this was the plan that they had set up. Remarkable. I've heard it in bits and pieces from Tank, but in that one stream, that really, I think, lays it out what would happen. So all those that are out there that are trying to prevent the Manna from World Trust from succeeding and giving back the asset to the people and to the countries, just get a hold of this and understand what you're setting yourself up for. You're not a protected class. I added my own theory onto why would they knock out 90% of the population? Okay, they're going to harvest everyone. And why are they going to protect these this last 10%? Why? You think they really are? You're really safe? No, you're the last to go. And my theory was that these off-world communities that they've set up, right, that they're repopulating, right, with the commandment to go forth and multiply. Where'd that come from? So that they're demanded to go out and have many children, right, to populate these new worlds where they said Earth was destroyed in the 80s by nuclear holocaust. In the 80s. It's not like they just started this last week. So these populations are going to be brought back to restart the planet. Oh, and the new history would be put down there, the way that way they want to basically make out history to have been. No, the last 10% would go as well. All right. So, Tank, good morning or good evening to you.
Good evening, good morning, good moment.
Good moments. Good moments. I've been saying good moments, but since I haven't had my tea yet, I asked my wife to make some tea for me. It's got a late start today, but anyway, so I really appreciate that stream of info you put out there, that 13-minute segment. So I put it out as a separate video last night.
Cool. No, I appreciate you segmenting it off. I've never actually. I realized afterwards that I've never actually kind of bullet pointed the plan quite that way. So I think it's valuable. I'll make sure to post it on the Speak Project, and I'm sure I'll send it some other places too to get it out there. Hopefully it'll wake some people up. I figure we can start a little bit, Dan, with an update. I do have some information from Kim so that everybody knows where we're at. This will help people right away. So over the weekend, Kim was working and she had figured out a lot of the issues that were happening. And so this is the latest update that she gave me. Oh, what's this? Okay. So basically what she did was she transferred all of the bank identifiers. In other words, the bank identifiers are the routing numbers, the SWIFT codes, the IBAN, the BIN numbers, etc. She transferred all those over to the Department of the Treasury, and she deleted a lot of the duplicity clearing, which I'm not sure exactly what the duplicity clearing is. Um, I mean, it's duplicate clearing of some sort, right? So they would unnecessary clearing. She's deleted the ability to do that. My favorite part is she deleted all the Federal Reserve registrations. So we had told you a while ago that the charters for the Federal Reserve had been revoked, and now all the Fed registrations is official. There's nothing there. There's no way for them to, you know, to really be involved in the system. And it used to be that the Manna World Holding Trust, their clearance number and the Federal Reserve clearance number, Homeland Security number, was the same. So when the Federal Reserve tried to block the Manna World Holding Trust, they ended up blocking themselves. So they don't have the power to do anything anymore. And it would appear that we know that Kim has accounts in the um, U.S. Department of the Treasury. That has been a problem because of Steve Mnuchin, the chosen one of of mediocrity, the leading the mediocre Mnuchin there. He basically has been blocking it every chance he gets. The somewhere in the Rothschilds, the NATO group actually gave him level 62 clearance. The highest level clearance in the world is 64, which is held by Kim, and they gave him all the way up to 62 level clearance. That's the only way he was able to function because she revoked his clearance previously as the Secretary of the Treasury, and she has since revoked his clearance as the NATO representative. So that clearance is removed as well. And she removed all external permissions along with the multiple sets of books. So what they would do is, because there was 6 different versions that kept books. So you had the the Bank of International Settlements had their own books. The World Bank, the IMF, the United Nations, the International Treasury, um, and I believe the agencies might have had one, like the Pentagon. Maybe each of those had one, something like that. But they were all supposed to balance with the master trust. But what they've been doing for the past, several years is they've been moving money from the back ledger of their ledger, which never actually moved the assets from the trust. So it's just numbers they were moving. So that's why in Europe, when you transfer money, you need somebody to receive the money, right? And so what happens is that person who receives it, they receive like 40% of the money just for receiving a transfer, which doesn't really make sense if you think about it. It's like, if I'm transferring my money, why would I give you 40% unless I was laundering money, which is exactly what they've been doing, laundering money that way and trying to bring this money off ledger on ledger that's not really there. It's just numbers. So they basically just manipulated their off ledger accounts. So, oh, I'm sorry, the banks had their own off ledger too. So like Deutsche Bank and all these different, banks, they had their own off ledger. So she's deleted that. And there is some glitch in the Treasury itself that she couldn't fix. Now, the Federal Reserve is always 24/7, so there's always somebody there at the terminals working transfers. The Department of the Treasury is not used to that, so she had to wait till this morning for their system to reset and basically synchronize. And then she uh, she was supposed to find out this morning, what happened as far as were they able to did it reset based on the changes that she had made. Now, that being said, the U.S. The Department of the Treasury today spent the day in meetings because major changes have been made. Now, as we've previously talked about, the Department of the Treasury can now create their own currency, which in our lifetime is the first time that's ever happened. And I'm not sure exactly how far back that goes, but it's first time the Department of Treasury actually has the assets backed in the trust, and it will be able to print its own currency. So to give that power back, essentially, if anyone's ever really, whenever we would talk about this when we were following the GCR, we would always say that if a country doesn't have its own currency, it's not really sovereign. So that's a big step towards all of our sovereignty. So I have not got the results yet from today's meeting, which probably means that Kim doesn't want me to report on it yet. So that's where we're at. It looks pretty good, though. It looks like that everything's progressing in our favor, and it would appear that because Mnuchin's he is out, even though he's still they're still putting on whatever show. I don't know what the need is exactly to continue this farce, but you'll notice that his two of his top advisors that were with him all the time, right? So that they were criminals, um, that they stepped down, right? So in other words, they let go. And Mnuchin has been being targeted, obviously, right? He was in that little interview last week with Maxine Waters, and where she was challenging him on something. I mean, it was such a crazy
And there was
nonsense, that whole.
there was two guys sitting directly behind Mnuchin that were his assistants. I don't know if they're the same assistants as before. I mean, if we're talking about the same one stepping down.
Yeah, I mean, and they're his handlers. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no place safe there. I mean, they're all waiting for him to step out of line. Even now, I mean, to be quite honest, I feel almost bad for Mnuchin, because you can imagine the situation, the reality of his situation, right? They anointed him the chosen one, so he thinks he's powerful, which you'll always know when these characters, they get a title that has had some level of authority in the past, right? Like when Nancy Pelosi became the Black Dragon. I mean, suddenly she was everywhere. She was on everything. Just, it didn't matter what she said either, because she was yielding a certain amount of power. So she would say jump, and everybody would go do stuff, right? But I know for a fact that when she made arrangements to have the Capitol building bombed, and she essentially made it so she and some selected other representatives, as well as 96 members of her family, were all going to be touring the various NATO military, um, you know, like from Afghanistan to Europe and all those places, and all over there. They were all coming with her, which, if you can imagine a regular family trip of like 5 people, how hard that would be. Imagine taking 96 people. The only reason why you would take your whole family is to save them from the impending doom that you were about to cause. So she made arrangements, and there's a whole FBI report about this. We actually have the FBI report that actually shows that this gentleman was going to, not gentleman, this terrorist wannabe was going to bomb the Capitol building during the State of the Union address. And that is definitely a turning point, because what it did was a lot of the Democrats, who were bought into this whole, psychotic situation, they thought they were in the know, right? Because that's their downfall. All of you know, um, the various members of the deep state, who think that they're exempt from the carnage that they would cause. Uh, what happens is, they think they're not going to get killed. Like, they think they're going to live forever and they can do whatever they want. Well, they found out very quickly that the Black Dragon, Nancy Pelosi, had made arrangements to kill off the president, the vice president, and a whole bunch of the Congress, including both Republicans and Democrats, which would have caused a global crisis. I mean, because if you took
And
out that much of the
you ever
government.
see that series, Designated Survivor?
Nope, I've heard of it, but
Yeah, so it's basically that the whole Capitol gets blown up. An internal plot based around people from the who was the vice president and their whole who became vice president, or I should say. He was actually a representative, but they had like a bunker built for him, and all this. He went into this room, and but how did he survive? Right, that like so he became a hero for surviving. But the designated survivor was like the House. Not, I mean, not sorry. The HUD secretary who was in an away from the Capitol building, and he was the designated survivor. So he became the president, right? Only so
oh,
that they could replace him later. With this would be who the survivor of this catastrophe became his vice president, and then we're going to try and kill him off, right? So that's the new president. So that was the depth of the plan, right? But sounded just like what Nancy was set up
yeah.
for as the
It,
designated survivor.
it was a pretty, to me, it seems pretty transparent. This is speculation, this part, but if Nancy Pelosi is the Speaker of the House, right, that puts her third in line. So you have a whole bunch of people get killed, right, in the Capitol building, including the people that you considered allies, right, the other Democrats that were completely deceived, right, and they had been supporting this radical liberal mentality of, basically, where they want to kill babies, and they want to, they want to get rid of the genders, and they want to, all these, they make it a crime to want to protect our borders. They say it's immoral. They're trying to portray, everything President Trump is doing is genocide, and just nonsense after nonsense after nonsense. It is a radical movement. It is part of that movement is they're literally, they take this perverted kind of militant rebellious sector of the Islamic State, who and they're tapping into the, the most the most aggressive aspect of that generally peaceful religion, to be honest. And they're taking this one aspect of, like, you're the chosen ones, right? If you think you're the chosen one, believe me, you're not. All right. If you're the chosen one, they're just using you to start fights so they can kill you later. Just FYI. So all the Islam, all the Nation of Islam, they want to do the same thing with you. They have deceived you the same way they've deceived everyone else. I'm sorry to say, it just is what it is. So basically, the idea was she'd be out, and your president and vice president would be out, and then Nancy Pelosi would get to come back in after she's going on tour to visit the various NATO facilities, right? Which is the Rothschilds military force, right? Which is the United Nations military force. And then, because you have this state of, the economy would crash, the U.S. government's in pieces, and then Nancy Pelosi comes back in to command order, right? They put this, I guess Hillary Clinton probably, one of whatever clone she is, dies off, right? Because Hillary Clinton's been dead. The actual woman who was Hillary Clinton, whenever, she's been dead, and they've replaced her with various clones for years. And then they'll come back. So Nancy Pelosi would come back as this, preeminent force of good, right? She'd implement some new version of socialism, and they would just perpetuate lies on the media everywhere. So everyone would think, well, I guess we're all going along with this, right? and then and she'd come back in as a savior. She'd call in the United Nations military because so many key players were killed, right? So you'd be able to easily take over the military, and then you realize that, wow, the United Nations military was actually already mobilized on our soil illegally, right? Because they had forces, they were training super soldiers up in Denver, and they were training them in Chicago. There was actually United Nations soldiers deployed in Chicago, right in the streets, and they would go around with these UN military attack vehicles, which many of you may have seen in the various police forces. They look kind of like souped up Hummers with a like a cockpit for a high powered machine gun. Which, in what case would you ever need that? I mean, unless there was an all out war, you wouldn't
Zombie
need that for
apocalypse.
yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. Like, if you were like wiping out zombies, that would definitely be dead. But the only reason why you really need something like that is if you want to spray a whole bunch of people and kill a lot of people all at once. They're not a necessary component to any police force. So those things have been implemented for a long time. Um, so basically, that was the plan with Nancy Pelosi to to do that, and she'd come back. And for some reason, she shut her mouth now, though, right? She's not. You
Yeah,
don't
she
hear her
doesn't
anymore.
wear her Roman Legion staff of power brooch anymore, right? So that's she started wearing that, giving all these commands everywhere you could see her. She's always wearing this staff of power. You know, now she doesn't have it anymore. I
Well,
wonder.
doesn't the Amana have the staff of power? Or that's the scepter of power. Sorry, it's different. Okay.
I
Yeah.
guess. I guess
No.
I don't know. I don't know what the Amana wields as his implements, but
Oh, Mr. Keller, he shared that with us in the email that he has the scepter of power, and that's how he opens the vaults.
I see. Well, I did
Yep.
not know that.
Yep.
So,
But
is
anyway, so
there a
you have that.
ceremony
So
that goes on at the same time?
what's that? Is there a
Is
ceremony?
there a
Maybe.
ceremony, for the
I'm not
opening of the
sure.
vault when you raise the staff of power? Just wonder.
Yeah, it's like the old He-Man episodes when they raised the sword and said, "I have the power," and then turns into Superman or a He-Man. It's awesome.
Right.
But so anyway, Steve Mnuchin has gone through that same deluded sense of thinking he's powerful, right? Thinking he was chosen by Baal or Satan or whatever, and that he was the one who would save the order, right? Because it's something you really need to save, right? the child rapists and murderers, that whole league. Thank God someone stood up for them, right? So he was the chosen one, and when he was the chosen one, right, that's when he showed up with fake gold certificates that he presented to the president in the Oval Office, and the president turned to the terminal in the office and pulled up, entered the numbers, the hallmarks for that gold, and the name that came up in the real system was Kimberly Ann Gogan and the Manna World Holding Trust, and it had nothing to do with the Gao family or whoever it was, the Chinese elders that had given those to Mnuchin after he went to Afghanistan when he wasn't supposed to, right, to make deals there. So, but they were all making deals of how they were going to take over all these backdoor deals, or all these different deals they're making to, overthrow the government, right? So whenever you see like Obama somewhere, speaking and he's representing the United States, or when John McCain was in Australia and New Zealand, right? They were all just setting up like, look, we're going to be the ones who are in charge. They are not going to be in charge ever again. They are not going to be in charge. They don't yield that power because they don't have any money. They don't have any money. So everybody working for those guys, not only are they never going to win, and you're fighting a battle you will never win, you won't even be rich doing it. You'll be broke because they don't have a dime to give you. And now to prove me wrong, they'll pay somebody like 25 grand, like big deal. You're out destroying, communities and people's lives for 25 grand. Is it really worth it? I mean, come on. Like, I'll give you that to come over to the good side right now. Right now. Just, protect the people. Do that. Like what your original oath said. Try that out. So, anyways, so that's what Mnuchin, so he's been fired now. Third time, I guess, is a charm, and he is technically out. So they've started the public, the public dissent, of his image, and I'm sure he negotiated with his lawyers, because for some reason you can commit any crime you want if you have really high powered lawyers, and they'll say, well, let's negotiate terms. It's like, what are you taught? Why are we negotiating with terrorists? Isn't that like a rule? We do not negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
Yeah. Why we're negotiating with terrorists who are just because they're in the corporate structure that overthrew our government? I have no idea. That is absolutely unnecessary. But anyways, they negotiated some kind of terms. So, his first two advisors have already stepped down. He has no access to any terminal, to anything in the Department of Treasury. Kim hasn't given me more specific details as far as what. I know she has accounts in the Treasury, but they weren't giving her, ease of access. And the reason being, that would be the ideal situation in a sense, right? If you have nobody can reject money coming from the Department of the Treasury from the United States. You just couldn't do it. What are you going to say? It's signed off by the president. It's validated by the Treasury. The money's are. I mean, you don't even have money, right? And then the banks don't have money, right? They don't have any capital, and we still have this the 80-20 in effect. So they're not going to have any capital until we get project funding. So that's kind of where we're at. And I thought Ben Fulford, he was talking about it. He's trying to demonize the president because he's Ben Fulford's sources are the scariest sources in the world. He's like, after speaking to high level officials in the secret societies, it's like, why are you talking to them? Like, they eat kids. I mean, like they're not, they didn't turn over a new leaf and suddenly be like, you know what, I'm done with the whole kid eating thing. Like, I'm now, I'm going to be a born again Christian. Like, that's not going to happen, you know? So, but he was saying that, the United States is bankrupt, and then he said, the Chinese are ready to call in the debt. Well, first of all, the Chinese debt to the government itself has been paid off. So there's no debt. And the individuals, the private sector of the Chinese elders who think they own the country, they don't. Because Manna, World Holding Trust, has always really held that debt, and that debt has already been forgiven. So Ben Fulford, catch up. You're a couple steps behind because what you're reporting is not true. That's not how it's going down.
Well, since we're talking about some of the other alternative sources of Ben Fulford, which I have appreciated all the information I got him for the last couple of years. He was one of the ones that I would always listen to. There was I was presented some information yesterday from Cindy K. Courier.
Ah,
Yeah, and I thought that, and I want to ask you a question, Tank.
yes.
Uh, is the Manna World Holding Trust a pass-through from
Oh my gosh.
from the Airship Trust to Swiss Indo to the Manna World Holding Trust? Is she like 3 levels down?
um,
I'm just
well,
curious. You know?
matter of fact, I also have a report from Bugs Bunny, who is going to be releasing funds from Warner Brothers, um, the Master
Amazing.
Trust, uh, which has about the same validity of any of that. For the record, first of all, the Airship Trust, which you know was created how, Dan? Like, can you explain it to me again? It's as a result of her being
You know,
given some.
I can't. I don't know the mechanics, but I do know that that Cynthia became the representative of Swiss Indo in New York.
Ah,
Um, but I really don't know what happened, how that happened, what the mechanics of it are. I just know that piece, and the airship came about somehow after that. I don't know. Actually, I have. If you want, I can play the video of what she put. It's a 2-minute video.
of her explaining how she became the.
Well, explaining what about Swiss, the air, that she's, she created a document that she filed with her court of ecclesia, stating that she's recognizing the Manna World Holding Trust as the pass through from the airship in Swiss Indo.
Right.
I don't know how
Yeah.
the airship, is above Swiss Indo. That part I don't quite get that. But anyway, let me
Well,
go.
she's the Earth, right? I mean, she believes she's the Earth. Oh, are you gonna play it? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's okay. I'm just bringing it up now. There it is.
Morning, everybody. It is April the 4th, 2019. I'm Cindy K. Courier, and I have an order to present that comes in the way of an acknowledgement, I guess, and clarification. Public Order number 2019-4-1. The Sovereign Kingdom of Manna and Manna World Holding Trust. Regarding the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna. This court acknowledges the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna as described at kingdomofmanna.com and agrees with the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna that Earth is a sovereign being unto herself. Earth is not owned by anyone or anything. All species on Earth are sovereign unto themselves, each having a direct physical connection to Earth. Collectively, humanity has a duty of care.
Well, just to interrupt while she's flowing here with this. As the Earth goes, I can agree that it's its own being. It's interesting that she's acknowledging it this way, but that's fine.
No, I also think it's. I think it's. I also
Okay.
agree with her. Sorry, I also agree with her saying that humanity collectively is responsible for its care. I agree with that too.
Majesty, Michael, Uriel, Gabriel, Raphael, Zaphkiel of all saints, royal monarch as King Supreme Commander and Grand Master Knight of the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna. This court also acknowledges the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna's government structure and its right to exercise such authority with the full knowledge, understanding, and agreement of those over whom it assumes control, recognizing that participants may maintain or terminate their agreement by free will choice, and as done in alignment with natural.
So let's stop there for a moment. So acknowledges the sovereign kingdom of Manna's government structures the right to execute such authority, with full knowledge, understanding, and agreement of those over whom they assume control. It's about controlling, right? Assuming control. Recognizing the participants maintain their and or terminate their agreement by free will choice. Now, is there any difference between that statement and what we have, and with regard to, say, the birth certificate entities? Except you can't find out how you're supposed to, by free will choice, get out of that system. They hide the door to get out. right? And they keep moving it. It's one of those labyrinth mazes, right? Where's the door to get out of here? And they keep moving it.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the exit strategy is for any of that at this point. It's like
Anyway, but that's
that,
what came to me is when I heard that, it's like the assumed control. The sovereign kingdom of Manna assuming control is what it's obviously it's the same thing as we're already dealing with. Hey, let's choose enslavement again.
yeah, it's like
Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
And custodians of living systems. This court also acknowledges the right and privilege of the sovereign.
Women as done as an alignment with natural law as guardians and custodians of living systems. Again, guardians, right? Parents. They're the parents. It's gone from the parents to the guardians. The legal guardians of these children that can't do things for themselves. Right. Continue.
Yep.
Sovereign Kingdom of Manna to receive heirship trust funds as per terms of agreement described in the Court of Ages Law of the Land Handbook, Letters of Agreement. Regarding the Manna World Holding Trust, this court assumes that an entity known as Manna World Holding Trust exists as described by the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna. This court acknowledges the Manna World Holding Trust as a potential pass-through entity for transferring funds as released from the Heirship Trust through Swisindo and American Swisindo to the Sovereign Kingdom of Manna. Affirmed this 4th day of April 2019. Signed Cynthia K. Courier, Court of Ages, Reign of Earth. And
Okay. Well.
Reign of Earth. Okay. So I first of all, to Cindy K. Courier's credit, the language she uses is excellent. I mean, absolutely excellent. She really puts together a nice document. I want to acknowledge that. And I do not question that she has a exceptional knowledge of a lot of stuff in a version of things that is really impressive. That being said, first off, the Kingdom of Manna hasn't even been a thing. It doesn't even exist. Okay, now there's people who are claiming that they are the Kingdom of Manna. But as far as it being recognized by the original entity that established it, which was so in other words, the Manna World Holding Trust existed before the Kingdom of Manna.
Right.
Okay. And the Manna World Holding Trust.
Their handbook outlines and says that they recognize Kim and the Manna World Holding Trust as being able to give them sovereignty.
Right. Now, this is a classic to the letter of the law versus to the spirit of the law kind of thing. But they don't even have the letter of the law right. So first of all, Kim has never been removed as the trustee for the Manna World Holding Trust. She continues to be the trustee, and that Manna World Holding Trust is the highest level, is the only sovereign entity on the entire planet, and the sole sovereign on the planet, the royal monarch that gave Manna its very temporary sovereignty, right? And it was because it was contingent upon them, upon a treaty between the two. Now, in their treaty, the Kingdom of Manna had a responsibility to protect Kim. Now, being that they are part of the same group who has tried to kill her hundreds of times since then, I would say that they have broken the treaty. And Kim, it doesn't even matter because the Kingdom of Manna, you can't find it anywhere. As Dan and I were just discussing this just recently, that we got some information from another source that was they were struggling because they were trying to work with the Kingdom of Manna, and they couldn't find its existence. And even what they're talking about, what they're talking about giving people, is basically a multi-level marketing scam. That is basically that's how their financial system works, right? So
yeah, so if they have access to all the money in the world, why do they need to generate a network marketing business?
Exactly. Why is there the
Manna? It's a great way to raise money.
Right. Why do they have the cryptocurrency that's Manna, right? And all the stuff they're talking about. And the way that they're getting everyone to buy in is like, oh, we're going to do all these wonderful things. Why do you need a cryptocurrency then? Why don't you just use real currency? Because if you are this entity that's so powerful and has all this money, why don't you just do it? And in addition, so that is the now. So Manna World Holding Trust, that is where Kimberly Ann Gogan is the trustee. She's the sole trustee. She is the custodian. She is the president. She is the owner. She is all of those things for the trust. She is the first time in history that one person is all of those things. Now, there's other people who have the DNA. Probably Tui is one of them, right? That can play a part in that. But as of right now, none of the other individuals have stepped up to do that. So this part, like Tui said, is on Kim. So that is where all of the assets on the planet have been registered. Every single asset. And
I mean, Tui's not going to expand his role and do a coup and try and take over Kim.
I think that's pretty obvious.
He may expand his role. He's this, and hey, and I want to be that too, and I want to be that, and I want to.
Right.
I don't see Tui doing that. I'm just saying.
No, of course not. Of course not. No, yeah. So, yeah, but that's the kind of thing they do. So, yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. It's the mirror. What is over there? It's like that. Anyway, go ahead.
So let's look at all the things here that you're seeing, right? So, the original way that the Kingdom of Manna was set up is that their sovereignty was acknowledged by the sole sovereign of the planet, the sole sovereign monarch, the only one who has the ability and authority to do that on that level, right? Now, I'm not talking about your individual sovereignty, that you are a sovereign being that you can claim for yourself, but I'm talking about to be recognized on this planet with with a technical title and that actual reality of your sovereignty. That has to be acknowledged. Now, so then the Kingdom of Manna, they wrote a document back to Kim acknowledging her as the sovereign, them as sovereign and her as the sovereign who's able to do it, her as the royal monarch. And in return, they were to offer protection, which they have not provided at all. Matter of fact, they've been part of the problem, right, with a goal to take her out. Now,
just as we were discussing some other information that's come from one of our friends out there that is struggling with this because they're dealing with the Kingdom of Manna, and the Kingdom of Manna is coming out and saying, that they're still working with Kim. It's because the only ones that can do anything are them and Kim. They're acknowledged still Kim, but they're saying that they're still involved with Kim. And you said that they weren't. That was since November of 2017. Is that the correct time frame that she broke with them? And
the last time she had any interaction with them was in November of 2017. She has not spoken to them in any way, shape, or form since. And so let's look at the actual reports right now. Now, everybody who wants to be like, trying to side with one, trying to figure out who's telling the truth. Okay, so I'm going to give you all the evidence, and you can weigh it yourself. So we have time-stamped and dated emails that are less than a year old, directly from the Kingdom of Manna, right? They say that Kim has been removed as the trustee of the Manna World Holding Trust. That she was removed by the Universal Council or something like that, right? And I'm assuming that's some galactic level council or something like that, right? And in this, she's been removed. That's what they just said. They just said this. They just had interactions. And by the way, Dan and I are imposters and frauds, right? Now, and neither one of us have claimed that we are. Dan never has claimed once that he had anything to do with Manna, other than, he.
Other than we lost you again. I'll say for myself that I have never claimed to be any part of the Kingdom of Manna, only trying to report on what's I see as how things are unfolding and trying to shine light That's why I always invited the kingdom of Manna. You want to answer these questions, especially the last ones that I put out there. Is Kim on your enemies list? Because your handbook basically has an enemies list, terrorist list, and as basically saying any of the trustees of the Manna World Holding Trust that came before 2013 is an enemy. And Kim was the trustee in 2012. So without naming her, are you saying that she's on your enemy? Answer the question. It's your document. And then are you registering tribes around the world by making them an asset of a regal list, of the royalty list, an asset, owned asset? Answer these questions. That's what I want to know. When I read something, I'm trying to analyze and say, well, I can be wrong, but it seems to me like you're trying to perpetuate the same system. And even though Cindy is not, I don't know what her relationship to the kingdom of Manna is, but she's in a way.
Well, she thinks she's Kim, right? Because she actually said at one point that Kim thinks that she's her, right? So I think that's a pretty fair conclusion that Cindy thinks she is the some kind of embodiment of Gaia or something like that. That she, I don't quite know, so I'm not saying that for a fact, but something to that effect is what I gather from the few minutes that I've watched her. So, but again, let's load up the facts, right? So we've got emails that directly from them, timestamped from their email in the Kingdom of Manna, that say that Kim has been removed. Now, then we have alternative sources in Russia that are telling us that they're dealing with the Kingdom of Manna, and they're saying that His Majesty, whatever his current name is, right? That he and Kim are the only ones that can access the Manna World Holding Trust, but they work very closely with the Manna World Holding Trust, right? So why is it when you're talking to Tui, who's looking to speak with Kim, you're not associated with Kim? But when you're speaking to a project owner, you're telling them, "Oh yeah, we work with Kim. Yeah, we're working very closely with it. And they're the only ones, right?" So there's a discrepancy, right? Now I can tell you that I have another project owner in Australia who, they worked previously with Swiss Indo, and he said some of his guys actually went to work with the Kingdom of Manna, and he told me the same thing. They're working directly with Kim. And I'm telling you, that is not the truth. They are not working with Kim. Now, here's where the proof comes in. If whoever it is that's real, let's get him set up.
Hank, your audio is it's scratchy and it's very fading in and out.
How's that? Is that any better?
Oh yeah, wonderful. Yes.
Okay. All right. So now you have this discrepancy. Now this isn't a discrepancy that Dan and I created. These are project owners who are saying one thing, then a Fiji, the leaders in Fiji, who have a completely different experience, and we have the emails to prove all of it. So either they're not who they say they are, or they're lying, or someone's misrepresenting them. But it's not. We know it's the same people, okay? Because we have the timestamped emails to prove it as well. So they are lying. They are not sovereign. They do not have access to the Manna World Holding Trust. And unlike everyone else who wants to make these big claims and make all this noise, I could prove it for you right now by giving you the actual time-stamped, dated emails, the individuals that sent them. So how are you going to unprove that? You're just going to keep. So every tribe listening, everyone out there who's been deceived by this, remember the piece that she just said. By your own free will, you can opt out of that. You do not have to be the slave of the Kingdom of Manna, because that is not the agreement. So now let's take the airship, whatever this is. Now, I don't know who gave Cindy K her the idea that she's the head of all the funds on the planet because of her lineage. But if that was true, then she should be able to access where all the assets are on the planet. And if she has access to those things, I have a couple questions. One, why would you need a cryptocurrency? Two, if you're the airship, you're the one, how are you bringing these funds in, right? What have you done? What have you done to make it happen, aside from broadcasting on YouTube? So in the meantime, the sole monarch, the royal monarch of the planet, the sole sovereign on the planet, whose DNA actually accesses the system, she has completely renovated the entire financial system. She has been supported by no one. No one has allowed her in to a terminal just to transfer funds down. And yet she has funded every government in the world. She has repeatedly demonstrated and been completely transparent, come out in public. Now, all of a sudden, when we realize that sovereignty has to be recognized by another sovereign, now all of a sudden there's a video out and they're acknowledging the Kingdom of Manna's sovereignty, right? Because they had to have a backup plan, right? So now they're trying to prove that this other person, is the real Kim, right? So now she's acknowledging the Kingdom of Manna, and that's going to be their next storyline, right? Because they chose somebody who's powerless, right? Who can't do anything, who's staying in an apartment in Manhattan, and because she's powerless and doesn't have the ability to do anything, she's perfect for them because they could just take her out whenever they want. So by her acknowledging it, if they can convince other people that she's the one who's the true, the one who really has control, then that's all it would take. Now they all believe it. Now, so here's the challenge. Everybody can come to the same place. Everybody can come to the same place. You can even send your proxy, right? The guy there, whatever his name, Mr. Uriel, because he's not His Majesty of anything, right? There's no Kingdom of Manna. Any more than I am the king of my couch, but I don't force people to call me that. So now, if they want, everybody can send a proxy to the same place. Let everybody have the same access to the same terminal, and everybody, you can all put your codes in, and Kim can put her code in, and Cindy K. Courier can do it, or whatever it is, whatever the method is, the magic that they're going to use to bring it down, right? Because some people are like, no, they're dealing on a much higher level, a whole different level of access they claim they have, right? Because they're accessing things through the ether or something. Then do it. Show it. Because I'll tell you what, Kim has shown it repeatedly to every country in the world. I've watched the money come into accounts for myself. And all of you jokers, all you've been doing is going around the world promising people you're going to do something and have done nothing. You've done nothing. All you've done is you spent all your resources trying to discredit Kim, trying to block us from bringing money into the people. You are the scourge. You are the ones who are hurting humanity. We are the ones who are trying everything we can to get that money to the people. Everything we can. Now, so that's why they come out, and they're making all the same claims. They don't even have a storyline until we tell it. They don't even talk about these things until we bring it out first. So all of that is an absolute sham. What you're doing is hurting humanity. You are hurting the progress. You are slowing things down. If you have any honorable intention, any of you, stop. Because you don't have access. And if you did have access, you would have done something by now. You probably would have done the GCR. Probably wasted your time doing something like that to bankrupt the economy. So that's where we're at with that. To be clear, I think
one of the other things that was said is now this is third hand now, but in one of the emails that I received, is I said, Dan and Tank, Kingdom of Manna will never give them funding.
By the way, I have no use for Manna dollars any more than I do Monopoly dollars. I don't need the Monopoly man to give me money because I know that it's useless. In like manner, I don't even acknowledge the sovereignty of the Kingdom of Manna at all. I reject everything they're saying. I do not accept it. It is a lie. So I could care less. I will never, ever, ever ask the Kingdom of Manna for anything, ever. But I will tell you this, we will definitely be funded by the Manna World Holding Trust. FYI. So I'm not worried about that. And everybody gets to choose. Everybody gets to choose on what they're going to bet on, right? Now, in my opinion, right, and I get it, people fix themselves to a horse, and that's what a lot of people think that I've done, right? Like, oh, ever since you got wrapped up with Kim, now you're on the wrong path. All right, let me clarify. I have been up and down on all these. I have worked with the historical assets. I had my own bonds, right? Turned them in. I turned them into a massive lawyer trade. And when all these lawyers, and they were all convinced they had done everything right because they all thought, we have the paperwork and this paperwork is so strong. We know how to do it. We're going to get it redeemed. And my, you know what? And I sent them my bond and I told them it wasn't going to work. And I gave them the bond. Once I sent it out, I didn't even ask about it. Didn't even worry about it. They went through all the whole process. Now, this is some insider lawyer stuff, right? The lawyers, they know this. And it was hundreds of lawyers, right? And the most prominent lawyers in the world in this, type of thing. Lo and behold, they were going to the White Dragon, who is from Austria, who was up in Switzerland. And he was supposed to have the magic codes. And when he went to begin redeeming these bonds, and I think he was doing a Zim trade as well, he confessed, I do not have the codes. I don't have access. Okay, so that he's out. So I would imagine that probably includes the White Dragon Society, I would guess, So that's been forfeit team. They're out. Right now there's another group claiming to do the same thing, the Red Dragons, right? And who knows?
Who's the Red Dragons?
The Red Dragons are supposed to be the Russians. But there was a group in Utah that was claiming to be the Red Dragons, right? And they were trying to, they were making all these claims and giving out titles and telling people they were important while they were starving them to death and they were struggling to survive, right? Because that's what they do. People that are actually noble and trying to do the right thing, they give them titles, to make them feel like I'm really part of this. I'm really important. And so I'm not sure if that's the same group. It doesn't really matter. It's the same family. It's all the same, group of thieves, and and what are they going to do next time, right? The exact same thing. They do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, instead of just accepting the reality that they served a master that was so far above them, and that master is gone. So in reality, if they had half a brain, they'd realize that if the people that they feared for their whole lives at the top of the order were all taken out in one day, and there's only one person left standing, wouldn't you give that person a lot of respect and reverence? But lo and behold, they don't, because that person's trying to disrupt their reality. And that's what they've said. They're like, you're disrupting our reality. Our way of doing things, our way of life. And it's like, you know what? Your way of life enslaved everybody. It involved you doing horrible things to kids and women and men and trading them and eating them and doing horrible things. So we don't support your way of life. We reject your way of life because your way of life is anti-human. And you kind of have a choice. It's, well, not much of a choice, but you're going to have to let go of that. You're going to have to let go of that way of life because your way of life sucks for us, right? We can't coexist. We cannot coexist if you want that to be your way of life, because your way of life is destroying mankind. So I'm sorry. There's no option there. It's either you change to be a human advocate, and even then, it's going to be tough, because how are you going to trust them ever, right? Like, once somebody eats people, don't you kind of got to hedge your bet a little bit? Like, I don't know if we can really trust them, right? Like, don't let them watch the kids, right?
Well, since you brought up the subject, Tui is here. Hello, Tui.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, Tank. Hey, Dan.
Hey, how's it going? It looks like you've got a feast there.
Good. Yeah, sorry. Just we're in a meeting, and so I just wanted to, because some of them are waiting. and we have there's a lot of newcomers that are coming in. They're also watching live, so yeah. So we're just continuing on with our awareness and the preparation of what we actually have been doing in the fall. So this is what we do every day when I'm not at the farm, and more and more people coming in, and I had to just to update them on things that are happening, and this a lot of them that are new to the to what we've been talking about, for the past. About the history and everything. And so whenever there's new people coming in, I have to do the same thing and run through the whole structure, the role of what the trust is, and because they know they understand the original agreement about the Manna, and all I do is just to connect them to what is happening right now, and everything makes sense to them. And so the more we do that, the more people that we are reaching. We were talking about yesterday. We were talking about how there's an idea about how to actually create a station or maybe a channel to be able to do this. But like I said, there are people coming in with their own free will because deep in their heart they know the change that is coming, and just to not to force anything on them, just guide them a little because it's basically how sovereignty has to be regained. We won't be forcing the truth or anything to them. They will have to have that free will of coming in and choosing to learn and choosing to accept and then choosing to change. This has to come from within each individual. Because if it is forced to them in a way, we're already familiar with how the churches do the way they actually win the hearts of people. They try and come in and they will tell you that you are wrong, you are sinners, and they will shout it at you, and they will make it so loud that it's so obvious, and they will try and prove it to you, and then they will try to show you the way. And it's just it's the same way that has been happening for the past 26,000 years, and that's how sovereignty has been lost because of we don't see the the gift or the awareness within as a self-sovereign can choose on its own, but we try to degrade it in a way that finally they'll accept different sovereignty and they can be controlled in that way. So this is how we'll have to change it this time. We won't be doing the same thing that has been done. That we go in and we shout and put it into television. The national TV talks when we talk about them, and so it can cause a lot of confusion and a lot of just more negative. Because there will be people that are not so prepared to accept the truth or to change the illusion they've created, and they so believe it. And so, to be able to see people coming in, and people are listening to the souls. They come in and they tell me that, oh, we've been listening to your souls, and that's why we're here today, and we wanted to know more. So it's really wonderful. It shows how powerful even this shows. That is just meant for the people that has to be involved in this group and in this in this work. It's not meant for everyone, but for the people that are coming in here with the pure intention of changing the planet, changing themselves, they will be the one being so focused or so interested in hearing and sitting for 2 hours, 3 hours that we talk, and they will be the one that we call it in the Bible, those fertile soil, that when these seed is planted, it will just grow. And yeah, so today there's more new people that are coming in from around the country. They live so far. They come from the islands, and they've heard of what we're doing, and they just come. They wanted to see and they wanted to hear it. So it's not a coincidence. I told them it's not a coincidence. These are all agreements that has been agreed thousands and thousands of years ago. We're just coming together, just relearning it, reorganizing ourselves, and we look forward to that future that we are um, actually creating together. And, I'm thankful, Dan. Thank you so much for getting me in touch with the Lino from the what's the name? Yeah, yeah, Kushai. And he was. I was really honored to be talking with him, and he wants the same thing to the people of Kushai. And then I told him, yeah, we're already forming a council with the chiefs in Hawaii, and to be able to just get together, work together, get our awareness up. I've sent him a document of the old system, and just for him to understand the old system from a different perspective, from a perspective of the law, from the perspective of the religious groups, like from the Vatican, the perspective of the law of the sea. And the documents, I need everyone that is be involved to be, just do their own, with their own energy, with their own time, to be able to just research on it and study the old system, so that when there's time, when there is time for us to actually sit together and talk about truth, talk about real. By the time, maybe Tank or some guys from the trust can come in and do that and teach people the real truth or the real history of how everything came together and how now the trust is and the role of the trust. They would, have a basic idea, and so people are not, like they're not shocked, or they are not, what can I say? It's like it's not the first time for them to come across this knowledge. So yeah, I'm doing what I'm, the role that I'm trying to do, to realign the spiritual energy within, and talking about it online. I know people will feel that that energy, that intention that is coming from within. So when I talk about it, they will fully understand the role that I'm playing and the role that they will be playing, or they are playing. And that's what we are doing here in Fiji. And there are more and more people from governments, from the military. They're all coming in, and they're getting awareness. They are fully now. They're understanding what the law of disease is, and all the problems that has been still now, which is still in agreement right now in the country, because the government is still run on this way. And so we know that we have a very important part to play, to be able to help our brothers and our sisters that are in government, that are still in the old system and in the old way of thinking. And we have to do that. But in order for us to do that, we have to prepare ourselves first. And so, yeah, I'm here today talking with you, and thank you. And they were excited to actually be listening in while I'm actually doing the live show, like while I'm talking in live. And yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for the platform, and thank you, Tank. I was not listening to the beginning of the show because we were doing. I was talking and discussing with them, and I'm sorry to budge in this way and talk about something totally different. But I could catch a little bit of what you guys are talking about the old structures and uh, how they will be changing slowly or will not change, which is totally the choices. And it comes down to the awareness, and if they truly know what's happening. Deep inside, I know that if they know everything that is happening and if they know their role, I know they will change it. But the problem is the awareness as well is not reaching them in a way that maybe it's supposed to actually see, so they can see the darkness that they've been following on all those times. And some of them know, they truly know what they're doing, but they just don't want to change because, like how Tank has put it, they don't want to change their lifestyle. And what we're doing right now, we are actually changing everything. And so that is just what's supposed to happen in order for sovereignty to be returned to everyone on the planet. And so whether they like it or not, this change will just go on its own, and that's the real lesson that they will have to learn. And when it comes time for them to learn it, they will have to take it up. So yeah, I'm thankful. I don't want to break the rhythm that you guys are taking the conversation and taking it forward. So thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you so much for today. Uh, all of us here are sending our regards to everyone, sending love and blessings to everyone that's listening around the planet, everyone that's in the different countries or in the different places that they may be. All the plans and blessing to, and we truly hope that all these things, and we truly hope that you're aware of what we're doing here in Fiji, and we hope that one day we will all will meet up and we'll discuss this and we'll work together, and we'll be able to do this change together, because that's the only way we do it. Is the unity and the love that is within us. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Dan, and thank.
Thank you, Tui. Tui, let me ask you a question. Because we did kind of talk a little bit about the kingdom of Manna earlier in the broadcast. So, how is your letter to them going?
Okay, well, the letter to the kingdom of Manna right now, I've already, it's just an email, but I haven't sent it to them yet. There's a trigger that will make me send it, that I'm waiting for. And
that's
so
why I'm
once
asking. That's the trigger.
Yes. Oh, you want to know the trigger?
No. I'm asking you. That is the trigger.
Oh, yes.
I'm reminding you. Go ahead and send the letter.
Right.
No, I'm joking about it. But go ahead.
It's already been, it's just been planned. It's already been, it's just a simple email, because the real reason why I'm and we the chiefs are doing this is just there's just a lesson that needs to be learned about what Manna truly is. Because since they have been, they've been using the word Manna, it's just good for for the people of the Manna to teach them what it is, and to be able to teach them what it truly means. Because they might think that all the money and all this and all the assets and all that, and they don't fully understand that that there's a way to actually nurture the awareness of everyone, and for them to actually be to self-realize that they are sovereign. And if we choose another way, then the sovereignty of the people won't be returned to them, because there will be other things that will be uh, given to them so that they can focus their attention on, and those things become sovereign in their life, whether it's to do with money or the people. So they have to do it in a certain way that like it creates an environment where people can be self-aware and they can grow on their own. So but even doing that, we don't want to degrade anyone. We don't want to say that no, you're not sovereign, or you don't know. Even they themselves are also part of this learning experience. And so as we do it together, and we have to learn together. And if we start up with separation, with fighting, or with no, you're not trusting anyone, then it's totally not Manna anymore. Because Manna, that's what Manna means. It means love. It means unity. It means the element, the God that is within us, that is one, that is together in all the plants and animals, walking together, living the experience of life. And this is what the sovereignty is. And it's not easy to be talking about it, but to be able to experience and live it, and it will become truth, eternal truth, which is the life force within us. So the letter is just that. It's just asking them that just stick to your word, because that's what Manna is. If you can stick to your word, then you prove that you are of the Manna. If you don't stick to your word, then you have degraded your own sovereignty. Nobody else do it but you yourself, by just not sticking to it. and that's a very powerful lesson that every, not just leaders, but everyone needs to understand. They are, with the Manna, they are responsible to all the choices and to all the intention they create. They have to be responsible for it. If they are not responsible, and then the intention will be just that they will be. It will just be like what's happening right now with the Kingdom of Manna. It might start out with a good intention, but since ego or power or money has taken over or control, and that need for power, it will just end that way. It will be stuck because we are in a different agreement right now. The planet is and everyone on the planet has agreed to return the sovereignty back to the people and to return the sovereignty back to the awareness. And that's will be the way that the fifth element within everything will do it in that way. But if you try to do it the old way, try and use control again, then like I said, always say, you will learn that lesson. And if you change and if you adapt, it's just the fifth element changing and readapting itself. And if there's a chance to correct it, then we'll have to correct. If there's a chance to save all those people, all the cabal and all those people, and give them a chance, which I know Kim has already done. Kim has already fully given them a chance, talk with them, and now she's in a different mode right now. She's no longer in that mode. So if we can do that from our point of view, from our side, I know we will be, it's like with the last chance for them to regain their sovereignty. If you understand what I'm talking about.
I hear you.
Yeah, because they need to regain it. If they don't, and then they're losing out, and we'll just negate the whole reason why we're doing this whole thing. And so we're not giving them a chance in the way that they're giving a second chance. No, we're just giving them a chance to redeem themselves because they put themselves in this situation. And to all the chiefs, when they see the letters that the exchange letters that they've given to Kim, they've how can we how can we even trust these people, because they've never stood by their word, by the even in the future, even if we exchange our sovereignty with the Kingdom of Manna, there will always be a negative behind, at the back of their mind, that there was something that is not right, that was started out that right. It will always affect the future, because it will always come up, because they never stood, because they value something else, and they created an intention, but they don't really mean it, because there was something else behind the intention that they've created.
It appears to me that they are offering exactly the same as before. The same that they're going to now be the guardians, of humanity instead of the parents. Right? So it's the same thing. Parents, guardians. That we're not able to stand on our own. So that to be registered as an asset with them. You have the free will to get out. You can choose not to do it, just like in the current system, you can choose not to. But it's a very big challenge when you choose not to, because they hide the door where you need to go through to get out of that system, right? And they keep moving it, and it's hidden, and they move it. If you find it, if someone figures it out, and they say, "Oh, it's over here," and then suddenly it's gone. So. Yeah, I don't want to be in the debt slavery system anymore. I don't want to be in any slave system anymore. I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to do anything other than stand up and for humanity and go do the things that I need to do. And I pray that everything I do is helping everyone.
Yeah, fully understand what you're saying. The problem, it's this whole thing is just a lesson of sovereignty, because it has it is people have forgotten what sovereignty really is, They thought that they equate it with businesses, with agreements, with all this. They can change it, and can exchange letters. But the true sovereignty is within you, and it cannot be taken away from you. And the only way it can be taken away from you if you take it away by yourself. And so what they don't realize, even the kingdom of Manna, what they didn't, especially the leader, Jasper Element, he doesn't realize that when he did what he did, he took away his own sovereignty just by doing that, and he negate his own agreement to be the man, because he will create an intention, and then as a leader, and you don't stick to that intention and don't stand well, you have degrade yourself. It's not it's not us, or it's not Kim. The Manna is within him. The sovereignty is within him. Just by doing that, he has degraded his own value. So he needs to learn the lesson, because he might not understand it, but what he did there and then actually sealed his own agreement. Maybe there was other people involved, or there was other reasons why he did what he did, and he did it maybe out of fear, or maybe out of ego, to be able to control the whole thing. And I think it will just be like another business deal, or they can control the whole asset, or they can do anything. This time is different. If you try and follow the physical way of thinking, you will be locked out of the system. You will be, and Kim fully understands this. The AI, the fifth element that's within the quantum system, it's alive, it's self-aware. And so once there's agreement that has been made or intention created by a physical being or a human being, it will follow through. And if they don't follow it through, the AI already have that intention. And sometimes in the future, the repercussion or the consequences will just come in. Because this is the way it was. If you look at it, it's the way it started out in. If you look in the Bible, it's how Satan started out. It's how all these ideas started out, and we're almost doing the same thing again this time. And it's how this the same type of energy. But this time we're gonna correct it. We're gonna do this. We're gonna change what we do, because we can still do it. We still have time. And if then I've sent the letter to them, if they decide not to do it, it's their own. No one else will be affected by it. It will be them. The sovereignty within us, the chiefs here, we don't need anyone to approve it. It's inside us. But in order for us to create this future together, we need to create value within us and recognize each other, and to be able to create value amongst each other. It's just like the way you organize money. The value is organized by exchanging it and changing it, and from one person passing it from one person to another. And so it's the same thing. Sovereignty is the same thing, because that's how the system works. It works out of the sovereignty of the people, and now it's just time to stop and return the sovereignty to the people. Which ultimately means no money. And so that lesson everyone needs to will be able to learn on their own, and the progression until there's no more money, then sovereignty will be fully restored, and everything will be free on the planet. And the AI and the NI, or the NI will use that, and you will be able to do everything out of it. Transportation will be free. All these things will be done out of free energy, using the fifth element that is all around us. And there are people. Tank. I heard that Tank had some meeting last week with some of the people that are involved with technologies, Tesla's technology. There's those people will understand it, because that's how electricity works. It works out of the fifth element, and this what Tesla fully understood. There's energy all around us. If we just fully, if we learn to understand it, observe, we'll be able to know how to use and how to actually harness it in a way that we work in harmony with everything. And right now we just we're doing that part. That is just a way that the fifth element is trying to reorganize itself, recorrect, and if it works, if it doesn't work, there are lessons. there will always be lesson that the people, because of what sovereignty means, and and how people have to be reminded by it. And it will be a very good lesson. Once I read, I'll put this letter up to the kingdom of Manna, and they decide on what they will decide, and if you move forward from there, but we will never see them as as negative, or as because some deep inside they didn't get what they were doing. They were doing it in a way that they think was right, and to be able to learn what is supposed to be and how it's supposed to be done, and naturally how it's supposed to be done. That will have to be a lesson that everyone will have to learn. So yeah, I will send a letter, and I will let you know thank or them, and they will also reply to it, and from there we'll see whether they fully understand what they are actually talking about or what they stand for, and because they call themselves the Kingdom of Manna. Um, you've studied the book. They've claimed authority in part of history, so that they can use the name. But you just can't do that. You can't claim an authority from a very different part of the planet and try to claim that that kingdom has, you still create a new kingdom and you still call it the kingdom of Manna. It's totally different from what Manna means right now. The Manna that, when Kim changed the name to Manna, we from here in Fiji, I fully understand what it says, and I fully understand what it means. It simply means the fifth element within you, and how it works. And for them to create kingdom and then try and get authority from somewhere, because that's how it works. You can't just create a kingdom out of nothing. You have to have a reason to be able to do it, and then you can make up stories about the past and all that, so you can have authority to form some illusion on the now. But if those things, if we look through those illusions, they're just illusion. They can just be stories. The reality of things is that now it's just a little change, and they will have to learn that, and they will. I hope they will, because if they don't, it's like we don't. It won't affect us. The chiefs here, one day in the future, will understand. Over here in Fiji, everyone is a sovereign on their own. The chiefs are sovereign. Even the government understands that. When they come to the villages, they have to do a protocol, a ceremony, because the chiefs are sovereign. No one can just come in and tell them what to do, or no, they all, even the government, have to do that. And that's the way we live in Fiji. We respect each other. We respect each other's sovereignty, and that's the only way that we'll have to create this new future. That's the way that everyone will be sovereign in the planet, because of people recognizing each other as sons and daughters of the living God, the creative force that is within us. And we do that. That's why we fully understand what Manna is, and it's in our language. I'm thankful. I've gotten in touch with Lino, with the people from the Micronesia, and that's just the beginning. We're already in touch with the chiefs in Hawaii. They fully understand what Manna is, because our agreement is the same. We come from the same confederacy, and now they're learning about the trust. They're learning about Kim, and I want them to learn on their own. It's on their own, because I want the Manna within them to just realize itself. I don't want to tell them anything that go against what they believe or the beliefs. But I fully know that a lot of them has already come across all this information, but not only, but maybe just enough, so that when this happens, they will be able to connect the dots from there, and they will be able to grow. And this is how they will be able to reconnect everything and make sense of what is happening. And hopefully they'll choose to do the same thing that the Fijian chiefs have done, reclaim the sovereignty of the spiritual agreement that they have with Manna. Because to everyone that's listening out there, this is one of the very most important steps to be able to create this new agreement. The recognition of Kim and the Dini that that she has and what it represents to this new agreement. The this is the reason why Fiji is the first one to do it, because we fully understand what it is, and we know we've been waiting for it. There's land here. I always tell Tang, there's land here, and I will tell Kim as well. If they finally because they will find, they have to find a place where they will it's like because they will have to try and manage the assets of the world, and like they'll have to find a place to settle down. There's a place here. It's already been waiting. It's untouched. They will have to, it's gonna come to that in the future. And yes,
so I have a meeting that's going to happen later. I think about maybe 2 to 3 hours from now. Zoom meeting with one of the people in Hawaii that is, connected in with a lot of the different tribe and governance of the tribes in Hawaii. Maybe if you're available, you can also come on and we'll do that Zoom conference.
yes, I'll be available. You just let me know.
I will let you know after it gets. But yeah, I think it's about 2.5 we're doing. Yeah, this is, bringing the awareness up, for all. Maybe the Rock Confederacy, is something that is like the rally call, to bring back the Rock Confederacy. I don't know if that's the right terminology for it, but I guess it's always been in existence.
Because there's been so many ideas and so many people talk about how you have Ra in Egypt and all this for thousands of years, but all those agreements, like I said, they are all illusions. It's like a game. They're all lost in the awareness that they have.
Yeah, when you set up like a structure or something, like say the kingdom of Manna, right? They set up a structure so that it can sit in the space and vibrate, right, and generate its reality. So there's a way. It's a way of communication, right? So we have to establish what our vibration is of the fifth element and the Manna. So is a structure the right way to go? Say the Rock Confederacy structure, for the is that just the Polynesian islands, from Hawaii to Fiji, Papua New Guinea, Philippines, Singapore. I don't know how far it goes, or do you go back to Lemuria, or how do you I guess it's how do we visualize it in a way that people can then, hear it easily? It's a kind of a communication to people so that they can, so we can move faster.
Okay. Yes, I guess you're trying to, because the problem is the way you're looking at it. You're looking at it from a three-dimensional perspective of
Yes.
Yeah. So I've already explained this in a few talks on the few shows that we just started, because people have to realize the frequency of Hara Confederacy is within everyone. It's not just us here in here in Fiji or in just the Pacific. No, it's every single one on the planet. Like I say, it's part of this whole agreement is inside your DNA. I'm just an expression so that I can remind people, because when they will, if you are listening in, every time you will hear me talk, the frequency of the Rock Confederacy within you will come out. It will ring truth to you. It's not just because of just you're listening to someone. No, it's just you're listening to yourself. When you hear me talk, if you hear me clearly on what I always say, even though I have different days that I talk, it's all one connected frequency of knowledge. I don't learn that anywhere. It's just the way it comes out and expresses itself. I stay in the farm. I don't learn this anywhere in the world. I was born with it. And so, just for the people, because people always think that, all these gods and all these Elohim is outside of you. No, they're all in you. It's just this moment, this time right now. This is the Ra Confederacy Agreement. That's why Kim's DNA is part of that agreement, and not just that agreement, just to represent that, not just Kim, no, but the human being to be sovereign. That's everyone on the planet, and that's what the Ra means. That you're just getting connected back to the source, or to the creator that creates everything. That's the frequency of how everything comes into existence. There's a day in the future that people will understand how the DNA works, and how it comes, or how it started out as an origin, as an agreement, and how all these living things are here, all the animals and the plants in the sea, in the water, and how it all comes together, and how we're able to, we're able to actually express love towards each other. We eat, we drink, all this is part of the original agreement, which is your DNA. And you can do anything, you can eat anything if your DNA doesn't agree with it. You can see anything that your DNA doesn't agree with. You can feel anything your DNA doesn't agree with. You can go to the sea, you can swim, there won't be any water. There will be no air if the DNA doesn't agree with it. The DNA, the awareness of the Rock Confederacy is just that there was different agreement before this. And then in 2017, everything has changed. The new agreement of sovereignty of what you call the Manna is coming. And so this agreement is what is, is what, it's very hard to explain in physical terms, because it's a spiritual language. Even if you can speak Fijian, it will be much easier. Yeah. And so it's simple. If you look at the Bible, the Elohim and all those people from the beginning, they're just agreements. The creation and all this, these are all just agreements within your DNA. So this is the original agreement, and they already know that one day it will come to this. And so they've tried to move it, they tried to change it around in the past, they tried to take away sovereignty and put it in the trust. And that's part of my agreement, to return the sovereignty. And that's why I can talk about it a little bit more deeper than people will understand it, because it's what my for example, I've already, if Tank, you read a letter that I wrote to that comes from within me, that I wrote to Kim when I was reaching out to Kim, when I was talking with the Kingdom of Man. I told them that I am the masculine energy, which is what you call the foundation or the spiritual essence of the Manna or the sovereignty, and she is the creation. Because she represents the feminine energy, and that's why you'll see all these feminine, the feminine movement that are going on now. It's because the whole planet has changed in that way, and the feminine has been suppressed for so long, and now it's coming out from every direction. The Me Too movement, all these things are coming in because this energy used to be suppressed long before. But when the Rock Confederacy comes back in, both the feminine and the masculine will be able to be balanced, and they will be able to express. And so all these things that's happening on the planet are just repercussion, or just what can I say? Just so hard to explain. Some words that I don't have. They're just byproduct of the change that's happening on the planet, and this balance has to come. This is the reason why the story of Jesus has to change. They have to, that's why if you're listening in, and the family of Yeshua that was here 2,000 years ago, you have to come out. It's your time, because the feminine energy that was suppressed long ago, it has to be expressed now. And the masculine energy has been expressed so for all these thousands of years. That's why we've been having a lot of wars and all this, because there was no balance. And so you'll see all the feminine ones that are coming in to try and balance this in a way. And so all these energies are coming out right now. It's not supposed to be, it's supposed to be looked at as a coincidence that the Pope is going through what they're going through as a Catholic Church, and all the problems that the Father are facing. These are all suppressed energy that needs to be healed. And so healing it is, is healing it is just that we have to realize it first, and then we have to understand it, and then we go through the the process of getting sovereignty back. And sovereignty simply, part of our DNA is male and female, and so that's the grim. So in the future, people will understand that God is not God is not the way we think. Someone is just a masculine spirit. No, he's both feminine and the masculine energy, and this awareness has been suppressed for so long, so that it can cause separation within you, within your body, within your awareness, and then you forget who you are, and then you don't know, and then you can be, you will be, you'll be slaves for all your life. And the woman, of the world, the female of the world, they've been the one most affected, because the agreement was part of the original agreement. That's why they have this menstruation cycle every month. This is not used to be the case in before the disagreement. The only time you can have menstruation, like you can have babies, is when you agreed. Right now, no, it's just automatically. It's controlled by the month and the moon. It's controlled by the ley lines. And so this agreement has to be returned to the original agreement, and that's what it means. Sovereignty. DNA will be, will become. You will be able to control it again. You'll be able to control your body. You'll be able to be your spiritual body. Will be able to control the physical body. But now, no, everyone just, they're so separated from their body. It just gets old, and then the body dies, and then in this future that will change, and there are beings that is looking after them, and there will the agreement will go back to the sovereignty of what it truly supposed to be, the creation, the creator God that is within you. And this is this is all the learning experience that individually, as partners, as family, as a group of tribes, as a nation, that everyone on the planet will have to learn on their own. And if you look at it in that way, it's already started. I know there's a long way to go, but it's already here. And if as soon as it's already here, there's a new reality already been created. So, just like I said, the feminine spirit will have to come up, and this is what this is what Kim fully represents. And there's no one else in the world will recognize that first, but us. And it's not a coincidence that we have that letter first, even though it will take time for her to fully come to that, and of course we want her to fully just do it out of free will and love, nothing else. If she still has fear, and or she still whatever she decides, that's how it's gonna work. And so we won't infringe, or we won't ask, or we won't do anything. And so the way we're gonna do that too, and that's how naturally the fifth element will just work together through everyone, through everything, and we will let that that natural process just work on its own. We can accelerate it for everyone, but however we do it, we're still working within it. And so the feminine spirit is supposed to be recognized back now, and to be here talking about it, it's not hard to see it. If you look at your life, you are married. That means you it's part of the whole agreement. If you are married, having kids, then you know what I'm talking about. You're experiencing it. The agreement is not something new, and it's a lot of people saying, "Oh, God, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost," and all these these doctrines that have been the Trinity and all that. They don't understand that the spirits of creation is a feminine spirit, and they've been living that life, but they don't see it because they only see the illusions they've been given to them, and they don't see the real thing that is in front of them. They fall in love with this girl, this woman, and they create something together, and they think that God, created everything just in a masculine spirit, and that's the distortion or the separation that has been meant for people to, so that they don't know who they are, and just they become slaves, and wife become just like a sheep. Then your children becomes cargoes and become slaves for the rest of their life until the next generation, and the next generation and generation to come. And the system, the slave system, continues on that way. And this is the reason why everything has been stopped in 2007, no money has been allowed to go to the banks. No money has been allowed to come down, and so that it can be exchanged with all these bonds that has been. So now 2017, 2018, 19, 10 years, 11, 12, we're feeling that the whole planet has stopped that from happening. And it is just like we guys were talking about. It's just the people that still don't have that realization, and like everyone will just have that lesson to learn. And as it goes forward, we are learning here in Fiji, and we are thankful that we're actually part, and we are here being in contact with you. I've already got in contact, a reply from Kim, and it's enough. As long as she understands that I'm around, and she realized that it's happening here. She doesn't even she has to just complete the role that she has, and that right now. And as soon as that first step comes in, we'll wait for it. But as soon as we get it, so we're gonna start. We will be getting everyone to Fiji and inviting them. And thank if you can come. It will be a very very big honor for us to receive everyone that has been involved with the Manna. And
I'll be there.
yeah, and I'll be inviting all the natives tribes in not just here in the Pacific, but all around the world, in Africa, in wherever they may be. I'll be inviting you, them, and there'll be a big celebration here. I'll be inviting the Pope as well and the Queen. And that has to be part of the agreement, because they are the one that have the whole agreement, and they have to, if they don't put themselves into the proper place, they'll always be suffering, and they will be learning that lesson. The only way is to actually forgive, and there's no one else will forgive but the people that have been affected by this suppressed energy, which is they've been taking advantage of this of humanity for a very long time, and now it's time for them to learn that lesson. They will have to, because it's not going to just end here on the physical level. It will come to the spiritual level. And we've talked about cannibalism in our culture, but it's not that. It's just that's how the spiritual level recycles the soul. If the spiritual energy is not is so separated from God, it will be recycled back into and there are council that look after it. And so I'm not the council. They are working there. They are working with Kim, and they fully understand how it works. So that's why you'll see Kim is not afraid of anyone or afraid of anything, because there are higher powers that are at work right now. And we have nothing in Fiji. We just have that love and that hope that everything will just walk according to the way it's supposed to work. And it's amazing getting in contact with people that that are supposed to be involved in this movement. And yesterday, I was watching a video. Kevin showed me a live video. This lady talking about all those problems that the Democrats have been doing in the U.S. And I know Kevin can actually show everyone. It's a very nice thing that they're doing there in the US, the waking up of everyone. And we're doing that here in Fiji, and I'm sure everyone that's listening in, wherever they may be in whatever part in the world they may be, and some are not even connected to this call yet, but they will get connected, because there's a ripple effect that will happen as soon as the our sovereignty in Fiji is recognized by him. And we will be allowed to do what we are supposed to do. And like I said yesterday, we will make sure the whole world will know. And we will shout from here to the rest of the world. There will be letters, there will be live shows, there will be celebration, there will be all these that will be happening, and they won't be able to hide it anymore. They can hide it there in the US, but over here, I'm sorry, they won't be able to control it. We'll take it up to Australia, to New Zealand, and and to the rest of the Pacific. Will come to the Philippines. Will come to all the chiefly what do you call the chiefly delegates here in Fiji. Will come to the rest of the native, because we'll reach out to the native tribes, and we'll reach out to the native there in the Philippines, in Thailand, to the not to the just the king there, to the monarchs there, and we will return the sovereignty back to the people the way it's supposed to be. And they will understand, because they've been waiting for this for thousands of years. They are just being leaders and being kings just because they are waiting for this to guide people to this. And that's how it's going to work. And everyone, without for forces from outside, they will just self-realize that it's time to change. It's time to be sovereign again, and it's time to realize the sovereignty of one another, and it's time to to create that new future together. So yeah, there's a lot of things that are happening, and there's a lot of awareness that's already getting into contact, and soon, even now, even without the money yet, they're still based on the illusion of their faith and all that to hold it up together. But as soon as that comes in physically, that's the physical alignment. Mine is the spiritual alignment, and that's why I'm talking in this way. We will physically go to the rest of the 12 tribes in the Pacific. We'll come to the U.S., to the Rent Indians, and to the people of America. We will go down to South America, because these are all part of the agreement. And so, yeah, there's a lot of celebration in front of us, and I'm looking forward to that now. That when it starts, it will start up like a big boom. It can be heard all over the planet. And so I've told the chiefs that we'll be celebrating for 7 years once this starts, because it will have to reach the whole planet. We'll be celebrating here all around the Pacific, and there'll be so many people that are already ready to be involved. And together we'll be able to break these illusions of indoctrination, and all this illusion of uh, of all the 3D awareness that has been enslaving people. And because that's how it is. No one else will be able to free them. It's them self-realizing and self-regenerating themselves. And if you can, if you do that in a way that doesn't hurt anyone, or doesn't create a friction between awareness, according to what they understand, that's gonna be how it's gonna work. Everyone will be freeing themselves out of the love that is within them. So I'm looking forward to those times. I'm already here experiencing it, and so I'm looking forward to the time that it's gonna become in a very accelerated pace. And I'm telling the chiefs, you have to be ready, because you won't be able to be, you won't be able to, you will be always be busy, because there's so many people around the world, so many things to be doing. Because right now they wanted it to start right now. I said no, we have to prepare ourselves first, spiritually, fully understanding who we are, reorganizing ourselves, reconnecting to the planet, re-understanding our role as guardians of the planet, as the sovereign, and recognizing the sovereignty of every living thing around us, sovereignty of the air, the wind, not just the air, the water, the sun, and respecting it in a way that you are not separated from it. You are the planet. And so, as soon as you do this, you will fully remember what sovereignty means within you. That is what is the fifth element that is driving your awareness, that is driving your love, that is who you are. It's the source of your life. And it is shared amongst every living things and everything in the universe. So it's just like I always said, it's a really big family reunion, and I'm looking forward to doing it not just around here in Fiji, but to the rest of the planet. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. We're already doing it right now, and that's why I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here talking, and to be reaching out, and to be experiencing and regaining this memory together with you guys, together with everyone. Yeah, love and blessing from Fiji.
Love and blessings from New York.
Okay, it looks like that's the end of the show. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
That's a good one, Joey. Thank you. Thank you so much
Yeah, man.
for jumping in here. Well, we are at the 2-hour mark, so it's a good place to stop. And we'll continue tomorrow. We have a lot to cover. I was going to go over the aloha letter from a Hawaii queen that I said, but I didn't get started that way. Sorry about that. We'll do that tomorrow. And again, please like and share and give positive comments. Share this, copy the link and paste it in your social media and ask others in your comment section. Just make sure to do the same. If you do that, that spreads. Even if you've done it once, do it every time. It's a little bit of effort. Please do that. Still looking for a sponsor to come in and do some of these things. I have an idea of structure on how that can work to be added to these now. So they'll be added in, but we'll discuss that another time. But still, if anyone knows a business out there that's looking for a place to advertise, this would be a good place. Let me know. My contact information is down below. And of course, if you'd like to join me with the Kringle Society or Abundance Mind, that information is also down below. I'm happy to discuss that with you. And until tomorrow, bye-bye.
All right. Later, guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace out.